sometimes you have a vision of what you want and no one's there really to like people are supporting you, but no one's there to give you exactly do step A, do step B, then you do this, then you do that. You're figuring out and you're creating on the run towards whatever that thing is.
Hey, welcome listeners. Today I have the distinct honor and privilege of speaking to Davina Hughes, who is the resource group team leader, a real estate agent at Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate here in Hampton Roads, Virginia, a top producer with a top producing team. Davina, welcome to the show today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So tell us as we get started, we talked a little bit before we hit the record button about you getting started in real estate at a really interesting time. Tell us how you got in and your history, where you are now.
Yeah, wow, that's a lot of story. So I originally started in real estate in 2007. I was in Mobile, Alabama at the time. I started with a pretty large brokerage there. It was a Keller Williams brokerage. And then, of course, everything went a little different in the market. That's when I really learned about short sales and all types of other ways to be able to help clients succeed in a market that was insane. Not a good insane. Not good.
Mhm.
And then from there, I went into new construction as far as being an agent for it was a pretty large builder. They're a national builder. It's called D.R. Horton. And then after that, I became a stay-at-home homeschool mom for a season because I had several small children and two of my kids are on the autism spectrum and they needed a season of me homeschooling. Then I moved to Hampton Roads. And when I moved there, I met Susan Jenkins, who was the broker at Better Homes and Garden, and she was amazing. I wasn't even looking to go back into real estate, but she was like, if you ever think of going into real estate, call me. And I was like, okay. And I actually went back home to visit my mother. And I had a dream about going back into real estate. And I really take my dreams very seriously. I'm a very spiritual person. And when I woke up from that dream, it was several things that were revealed to me in that dream. Real estate was one of them. And like how you said you own multiple businesses. As an entrepreneur myself, I have a couple of other businesses that were also birthed out of that dream along with my real estate business. And one of the people that I felt impressed to call was Susan. I met her for 5 seconds at a kid event for like a October, like Halloween kind of festival thingy or whatever. So I reached out to her, got my license here in Virginia, and that was in 2017. And I've been doing it ever since here with that brokerage.
Wow. So that's pretty cool because amazing journey. So 2007, and I reflect, was just a disaster year for real estate.
It was, yeah.
Put lightly. You got your first taste of it then, and it's cool though. You shifted gears. It sounds like did a little bit with the short sales.
Yeah. Yeah, you had to kind of figure out something because just traditional things weren't working. So, yeah, definitely pivoted into learning a lot with short sales, and then I pivoted into new construction because that was D.R. Horton was just able to still really sell houses during that season when other builders couldn't. It was kind of amazing in our market how well that worked. So that was a good shift for me.
My guess is they had a lot of inventory to sell.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, the one thing that was missing in 2007, 8 was the money. I remember when liquidity in the market just disappeared, and we had in the residential space, we had a couple situations where just lenders, investors, were business between the time we
Left and right.
deals approved and get the closing time. It was just crazy. So crazy days. Well, okay, so took some time off, a season off with your kids and homeschooling and all that. Very cool. And somehow you found your way up here to Hampton Roads. If you want to talk about that or not, but you're here. Chance encounter with Susan Jenkins. The
Yes.
dream.
Yep. Pretty much. No, it sounds crazy. It's like I had a dream and I was back in real estate. But that is literally how it happened. It was when you say chance encounter, and it's funny because our kids went to us to the same school at that point, but I'd never seen her. Like, I never saw her in the pickup line or anything like that. It just so happened that I sat down next to her for literally 4 seconds at our kids' festival, and she eats, breathes, and sleeps real estate, so sleeps real estate. So she was on it, like, at that moment, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, I used to do real estate," and she was like, "You should call me." And I did. So you just never know the people that you talk to in 5 seconds, like, they'll remember you, and I take that to heart too because you have all these little impromptu meetings, like, throughout the day, and every person is, like, considered, like, every person's an opportunity for whatever it is that you're trying to do in your life, so just don't miss them because you never know how you can improve their life, but also how they can partner with you and improve yours.
Well, I would call that, you mentioned you're a spiritual person, I am too. I would call that a divine appointment.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, that's funny. And you just don't, you just, to your point, you never know what's going to happen, right? You're just live
Yep.
your life. I think the type of person that probably lives your life with that kind of expectation, right?
Yeah, I'm always expecting, for
Well,
sure.
that's awesome. So you got back in 2017. So you got in before the COVID craziness,
Yes.
and you've seen all that. How was how was getting back in 2017 after you had some experience? Of course, you saw the dark side of real estate in the world at that point when you first started. 2017 now, you got 10 years later, you're hooked up with Susan, right? Some mentorship. How was that different? What was that experience like for
So actually, I really enjoyed coming in 2017 compared to before. It wasn't like it was easy, but the opposition wasn't there. You weren't constantly trying to figure out like how to like solve a problem. You know, it was more real estate was just more traditional. I mean, people were looking to buy a house, they were looking to sell a house. There was no major economic crisis
you?
happening. It was just regular. And so it was easier to build a business in that season versus before you were trying to figure out like, okay, everything's crazy. Do I stay in this or do I really figure out the correct way to pivot to make sure I'm successful? And I mean, luckily that practice in that season before of learning how to pivot and shift when things aren't easy was beneficial, you know, even moving into like in 2017 with real estate, because you have to kind of come in with some kind of grit. You know, deals don't just happen. You don't just magically sell houses. I mean, you have to have a plan. You have to have, you know, a plan to implement that plan as well. And you have to have the right people around you, the right mentors and the right opportunities. And that was kind of the beautiful thing with that partnership with Susan is I walked into a space that had a lot of opportunities and also a lot of space for me because of those opportunities to build a good plan for me to be able to implement the things that were handed to me in those moments. Because without the space to be able to implement, it's hard to capitalize on opportunities.
Right, right. Wow, that's great. And you mentioned grit. I love that word. Talk to me about
It's a
grit a little.
thing.
How do you define it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I define grit as the ability to be able to continue to move forward when everything is trying to stop you. That is what it is for me. I mean, you have to see something there's opportunity. You see something, you want to go for it, but everything is literally either dragging you back or there's all kinds of opposition and you can either decide to quit or this is too hard or I can't do it or, you know, or you can even jump into the side of like, this just isn't destined for me. Yeah, I mean, we come up with all kinds of reasons like why to not move forward. But at the end of the day, it's like, do you want this? Is this where you're going? And are you committed to the challenge that's before you to be successful? And it's just the not stopping. My oldest son, I will say, like, he is probably the grittiest kid I know. When he was 12, he was like, I think I want to start a YouTube channel. And I was like, you're talking to the least tech savvy person in the whole wide world. And he had so much, it wasn't like he had a parent that was like, okay, let me do this, let me do that, like, let me help you along the way. Sometimes you have a vision of what you want, and no one's there really to like, people are supporting you, but no one's there to give you exactly do step A, do step B,
Mm.
then you do this, then you do that. You're figuring out and you're creating on the run. towards whatever that thing is. And I mean, I'm obviously a very proud mom, but this 12-year-old kid started this YouTube channel, he's 17 now, and, like, he's now fully monetized. He has, he has all the watch hours, all the subscribers that it takes to be monetized. His, like, last video went viral in, like, 3 days. He had, like, 67,000 views on it. You know what I mean? Like, so I say all that to say, like, he kept pushing, and he had the grit there, and I'm using him for an example, but it's the same thing for me. It's the same thing for any entrepreneur. Like, when you see something, you can't let the lack of knowledge stop you. And and I think in real estate, what's new now that wasn't big in '07 is technology. I mean, as an agent now, you can't just be able to, like, sell houses. You can't just, like, send stuff to your email list, and I mean, you can, those things are important, but, like, man, the need to understand and to know technology, how to do social media, how to do YouTube, like, all of this extra stuff, it could almost feel like a burden, like, "Oh my gosh,
Mhm,
I can't push past this thing to
mhm,
now be able to get to that next level or to make that, the money that you wanna make at this level, it requires something different, something new, and it's hard when you feel like it's opposition. But it's the thing of, like, just calling somebody, figuring out, playing with it, failing. That whole idea of failing forward is
mhm,
huge. And so that's kinda long story to, like, define grit, but that's how I look at it, is that refusal to stop, to give up, and even with opposition, you just figure a workaround.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot to unpack. My I can tell you're a successful entrepreneur because this is just bleeds out, it's not the best word, but I mean, it's just like,
Yeah.
I mean, you're living it, you currently live, and I think at some point as a son, you for your son because I'm thoroughly impressed. I'm with you, the same thing. It's like, oh my gosh, this technology, because I poo-pooed it for so long. I'm like, ah,
Exactly.
I don't want to do that. I don't want to mess with any of that. It's like, oh, can't we just do our business and move on?
Can we just do our jobs like we've done for the past 20 years? But the world is so different. It's so different. I mean, I was just at lunch. My husband's in the music industry, and we were just at lunch talking about how important now, even like in the YouTube space, like shorts are becoming, like how everything is shifting to being able to almost create these little bits of, like, commercials for people to, like, introduce yourself, and then hoping over time of them continuously seeing you that they buy into who you are, and then they want to subscribe to your larger platforms, and then they wanna subscribe to your newsletter or your email list or whatever it is that we have out there, and then they've now subscribed to you, and when they're ready, buy or sell or get a loan or get insurance, whatever it is, because we know we all do the same thing. It's all
Right.
about how big your email list and how much they've subscribed into who you are as an individual. That's like it's we have to. I don't trust me. I If you ask my team, they all know I'm like, I hate social media. But it's like a necessary evil. So we're all in it together and we're all gonna ideally we all grow together.
Mm.
We all support each other and it just gets better. We get better, at it.
Well, I think so. I think one of the realizations that I think you've come to just listening to you is that, like I said, we push because we weren't raised in this
No.
cartoon. I mean, well, think about like my daughter versus yours. She's a few years older. You could see even the separation there because things are so fast today. But you know, I think I've come to realize that train is the highway, and it's like a Japanese bullet trains, right? And it's moving
Mhm.
fast, and get on. You don't. I mean, just kind of grab on and start the process. Then way left behind. But I think the flip side of that amazing time, right? I mean, that your son at 12 can say, I want to do this. I want to create a business out of nothing, right? Video, a little camera, and computer, and is now creating 5 years later a business that is monetized, and who knows where that'll go, right? I mean, he's 5 years, he might buy the neighbor in like 2 to 3
I
years.
know.
You know what I mean? It's like,
I know.
holy smokes. unbelievable. But so for those entrepreneurs that embrace that and say, how can we get our arms around it in a way and not get, like you said, overwhelmed or maybe run over by, there's so much you could do, right? What are the key things? I think it's a golden opportunity to create that authority and to get that, trust that I think you're ultimately we're looking to build, right? And,
Right.
you cut out a lot of fat, a lot of middle people along the way, right? And advertising agencies and remember the yellow pages? Did you ever get
Yes.
the phone book?
Yes. Of course. Of course.
Right? So it used to be you had to take out a giant ad, right, in the yellow pages for business, and they're like, "Well, if you tell them that's not working," their solution was always buy bigger. And then,
Right. Exactly. Be
right?
more visible, but that's the same thing though, even
Yeah.
now, like, be more visible, like, you have
Mm.
to be more visible. So, it's very interesting.
Well, I have a friend who was on the show a couple months ago. He's a real estate agent, and he gets the vast majority of his business from YouTube, and it's all like people moving to the area.
Yeah. Is he the one that does the Christmas lights?
Mm.
No? Okay. I know there's one guy, he gets a lot of in this I can't think of his name, my team knows who he is. He does, like, the whole Christmas lights, like, the best Christmas lights in all of Hampton Roads. I can't
Oh,
think of his name, but he's also a realtor, and that's how he gets a lot of his business too.
yeah, but to your point, I mean, it's done well. You have to think differently, and you have
Yeah.
to execute and whatnot. It also reminded me what you're saying is there's an author speaker. He's pretty well. His name's Price Pritchett. He wrote a book called U Squared, also the one called Quantum Leap. And basically, the idea is have this vision of where you go, and you live the vision. And the key thing is to get in the motion along the way. But you've got to have this, and you've got to get out of the ordinary and kind of get beyond that. And grit. You won't get there without grit, and you won't get there
Mm.
without picture, right? This vision.
Right. You have to have that vision. It has to be clear. And I was telling that to my team yesterday or Monday when we had our meeting, just kind of going over their goals for 2023. It's 2023. And I was like, so they're kind of telling me kind of what they think and what they want. And I'm like, you have to write it down. And then you have to, reverse engineer how do you get here. So if you want to have 24 closings, like how many conversations do you have to have in 2023 to get to 24 closings? And that writing it down, it says, write down your vision and make it plain so that the runner who is running after that can know where they're actually going. I'm like paraphrasing a verse. But I think that writing down your vision and it being plain and knowing where you're going, that is the key to actually being able to unlock grit in your life. Because if you don't know where you're going and what you're pursuing and what your ultimate goal is, it's hard to unlock anything to want to persevere past that. I was at a commercial real estate training and this guy was like, he said this, and this is probably one of the best things I've heard. He was like, we underestimate what we can do in 5 years, but we overestimate what we can do in one. And that's the key, like, stop trying to be, "Okay, in 1 year, I'm gonna get all the way here." Just like, "In 5 years, this is where I wanna go, but in year 1, I wanna do this, but and then back in month 1, I'm gonna do that." And it's them breaking everything down into these micro stages that first off, it gives you the confidence of completion of one thing, but then it allows you to launch into that next thing, so there's, like, this continuous growth. And it kind of reduces fear and stagnation or even, like, overwhelm. I think overwhelm is a big thing that will, like, take out a lot of entrepreneurs because you're like, "Oh my gosh, I have to do 5,000 things, this 1 month." I'm like, "No, no, not this month. Maybe in the next 5 years, you need to do 5,000 things, but, like, this month, pick, like, one thing. This one thing, this one thing you do well. What are you gonna do? What is it gonna be?" So
No doubt. Does your team get that, you think? Because my experience has been, we hear about goal setting our entire life, right? And how many of us really take the time to sit down and do it? It's almost like, okay, this time I'm actually going to sit
right.
and go after it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things where I look at it and I decide, like, you release great information. And for me, I mean, this is what I always tell people too. I have 2 business coaches. Like, you don't get anywhere without accountability, without people who are checking your goals, who are making sure you did the things, who are helping strategize around your goals. It's a lot. So, I think setting goals are important, but then it's that team around you who's bringing accountability and even strategy to your goals that really allows you to go far.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I concur 100%. I've had coaches on and off for 20 some years, and there's nothing like having somebody to ask you the tough questions, right?
Right.
Like, did you do? And the other tough question is why did you do that? What were you
That
thinking?
strategy is not excellent. That's not an excellent strategy, ma'am. I mean, right?
Yes. Yes, I've heard that. But we all, every one of us needs it. Nobody wants it, but everyone really, we all need to have some pull the best out of us, right? And let us
Absolutely.
keep us focused on what it is. And so you have a team, a real estate team, and so are you providing that coaching and leadership to them? Is that what you do?
I present a lot of questions and a lot of, "I really think you should do these things," and I ask for the accountability, but I've also learned, in real estate, people, when they're ready for, like, hardcore mentorship or they're ready for intense coaching, like, they'll pull that button. Um, when they're not ready, they're not ready, and I mean, like, you just have to kinda be like, that, this person's ready, this person's not ready. So if they're ready, then yes, it's there. If they're not ready, I'm like, I don't push on people because it doesn't produce fruit. And I don't like to do things in vain. Like, I don't like to do things that's not gonna produce fruit. If I see that that's not your goal, then that's fine.
I got it. You can't really push a wet noodle up a hill very well. It's hard.
No,
People have to be led and they have to be ready for that. And
absolutely.
so tell me about the market. What are you seeing in the market now since you've been around the block a little bit and you've seen some different changes and
Yeah.
what's your crystal
The
ball,
market's
Davina?
very I don't know if I have a crystal ball, but the market's very, very, very interesting. So this is I know my husband always says, "Don't, like, date your things," but I'm gonna date it. Like, this is January when we're talking, and it's the beginning of 2023. We just walked out of 3 crazy years in real estate,
Mm.
and the end of last year was hard because, interest rates went ballistic, but we're seeing interest rates come back down. I mean, my last few buyers are at like 5.5%.
Mm.
That's reasonable. I mean, I don't even know how to get people to understand like how reasonable 5.5% is. I'm like, this is good. Like, "Oh my god," I'm like, "If you're waiting for 2 and 3% interest rates, like, that was a once in a lifetime experience. You're not getting tickets to that show, ma'am. That's not happening again, right?" But 5.5%, I bought my first house in 2003, and I have great credit, had great credit in 2003, and my interest rate was 6%, and that was amazing. That was amazing, and then the rates they've started to go down between that point and, well, they did something wonky in '08 and all that, but anyways, where we are though now with rates, it's solid, and there's less competition because the market isn't flooded with buyers, but yet we still have low inventory. I mean, so every listing I started out the year I have 6 listings that we started the year out with. Everything is under contract. I had one that was an investment property that we intentionally priced low just to kind of see what kind of activity we could stir around that property. We had 30 offers. Every other listing that I've started out with this year, we've at least had 2 offers on it.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
haven't had anything that's had just one offer. So it's not some dying market.
Mhm.
The buyers are still fully there. They're still fully qualified. It's just a little bit better market for buyers because now they have better opportunity of getting properties at the purchase price and maybe even negotiating and closing costs. And sellers are still making um money off of their property because of the appreciation from the previous 3 years that we've had with appreciation. Um, I don't see the market crashing. It needed to correct. Like, we were exhausted. Like, that was ridiculous. I mean, I mean, and we had so many buyers that couldn't buy. And so now they're like coming back in and they're excited because now they can buy. And I feel like we'll have a solid balanced market. We do still need more houses to sell. I'm going to be honest, like our inventory is like it's low, but we have inventory and we have qualified buyers. So I don't feel like we're at a bad place in the market. I think this could be I see this being probably one of my best years. Like that's what I'm manifesting for 2023. I don't know what
Yeah.
anybody else is,
Yeah.
but my goal is for this to be for my goal, if I increase my units by 20. So that's my goal for this year. Like I don't feel like we're gonna see the setback the way a lot of people are fearing. And I think you get whatever you put out. So I'm putting out, great production. I'm putting out hard work and I'm putting out a plan to like, reap a great harvest. And that's my personal crystal ball. I'm saying I'm recession proof and that's what I'm gonna operate in.
Well, I'm gonna say that that's the way you have to operate, right? I mean, that's how successful people
Right.
operate. I mean, you've got somebody said you've got sunshine, you've got rain, you've got soil, you've got seed. That's about all you can control. So
Yep.
you can't control the economic conditions, you can't control the
No.
housing inventory, you can't control the interest rates, you can't do any of that. But if you control yourself, then you're determining your future.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's going to be a great year for those people that are out
Yeah.
pursuing the ones complaining and worried and 1, 2, 3%. Old days of 2021 of selling. Yeah, you're going to have
I agree. Like that was crazy.
it. Yeah. Well, wow, this has been great. I can't believe we're almost up to the end of our time, Davina. That's been great. You're such a, I can see why you're so successful. You're living it and breathing it. Not just real estate. I can tell there's more dimensions there. It's just real estate's just what you're doing in this one area, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have my other if you just for a quick, knowledge, my niche in real estate is short-term rental investors.
Oh,
That is that's my go-to. I do a lot in that space, whether it's property acquisition, property setup, and helping people transition into management company to manage their investment portfolio. So that's a big part of my secondary real estate business.
it's an awesome niche to be in. I have a lot of friends and investors who do that. The returns there, if it's done well,
Done well.
if it's done well, you can't just throw it there to get that. But that's a great place to be.
Mhm.
Wow, wonderful. Well, how do people get in contact with you? They need an awesome real estate agent with a grittiness about her.
Well, it's pretty simple. You can follow me on Instagram or Facebook. Instagram is Ashwood Homes. That's my Instagram. That's me and my husband together. That's a lot of more of our short-term rental. I also have the resource group on Instagram. That's going to all be real estate. Or you can connect with me via email, and that is going to be real estate at davinahughes.com. And Davina is the feminine of David. So it's Davina Hughes.com. So real estate at davinahughes.com. That's how you can connect with me on any of your real estate or short term rental needs. I got you.
That's awesome. You got us. That's great.